Okay, Ipsy seniors, how we doing today? Got a fun little video for you today. I want to show you how to do a little bit of cooking without oil. We've talked about oil before and that it's really not a health food. Um, Extra virgin olive oil has some antioxidants in it, a cold pressed one, but when you outweigh the benefits versus the risk on olive oil, it's really just not a good idea. What they found in studies is that after consuming a meal with oils in it, and it didn't matter what kind of oils it was, didn't matter if it was really good quality olive oil or canola oil, or whatnot. But what they did is they look at flow mediated dilation. So they'll do like a brachial artery test. They'll take and scan what's happening to the arteries in the jugular. And what they found is that there was a 32% reduction, 31%, I'm sorry, in flow mediated dilation. So what happens is when those blood vessels contract and restrict to continue to help pump the blood, uh, that actually impaired the function. A lot of people don't know that. And then, for a long time, people thought that coconut oil was just the healthy health food. And what we find out about coconut oil is that it's 90% saturated fat, and lard is only 40%. So it's definitely not better for you by any stretch of the imagination. Uh, 1 tablespoon of oil does contain about 120 calories and 14 grams of fat. So that's really calorie dense, and it's only this much, and that's not going to fill your stomach, but it'll give you a lot of calories. So whether it's in dressings, whether it's in sautéing, whether it's in whatever you might use oils in, it's one of the reasons why we have an obesity problem in the U.S. And a lot of it has to do with our food environment, and that every restaurant now has a deep fat fryer. So we're just getting a lot of oils. We're eating out a lot. Coming from a restaurant background, I can tell you that it was a learning curve for me to go from turning things on high, splashing some oil in there, cooking it up really fast, and having it out to the customer in a timely manner. But it was oily. So I figured out how to cook without oil. I'm going to link an article in the video description that gives you just a little bit more information, some of the things that I just mentioned, but you just don't need it. There's the whole caramelizing onions. I'm going to show you that we can actually do that. And basically, all you got to do is turn your pan down. You have to have a good quality nonstick pan. And what I recommend is Biletti at Bed Bath & Beyond. I like that brand. It's been good for me. They haven't chipped. I used to have Scan Pan. Those did get scratched up and chipped over time. So I would recommend that brand, and I would suggest that you take a quick look and see if you get those coupons. You can get a good pan for about 20 bucks. So that's a suggestion on a good hard anodized. I'm not talking Teflon, because Teflon will chip and you don't want that stuff in your food. It'll scratch, it'll leach. We use Teflon for years all over the place, but just not the best option. So without further ado, I also have another recipe today. We're going to do a split pea soup. I'm going to kind of show you how I do that. It'll get pureed, and I'll show you a couple other things we got going on here. So let's get the camera down. I'm going to saute just some basic vegetables here. I got to make sure that my burner is getting hot. And this one, I'm going to show you how to caramelize onions without having to use a bunch of oil. And then one of the options, and we've talked about this before in the zucchini fritters video from last year. That's basically what this is. We're just kind of trying sort of a falafel style on it, but I'm going to throw this in the oven and reheat these. And you can see that I've got parchment paper. I personally like parchment paper. It works well for me, but you know, some people don't prefer to use it. There's also silicone baking sheets and things like that. So let me make sure that I can get you in and show you what we've got going on here. So I've got this I'm going to saute for you. I've got leeks, mushrooms, and just a little bit of Swiss chard. That's very abundant this year, so you see I'm using that again. And we're just going to do a quick little water saute on that as a side dish. Note that you should always cook your onions because there is a type of a toxin in there. And then I've got a bunch of Swiss chard for my split pea soup. I have split peas that got soaked for an hour overnight. It's only a cup, and they've been cooking about an hour, so they're nice and ready to go in a dish. We just got to cook up the seasoning and the other flavors with it. And then we've got some onion, some garlic. I've got carrots and celery ready to go in here. A bunch of Swiss chard, and I'm going to add a potato to my split pea soup. We'll also link the recipe to the split pea soup in the description as well. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to make sure that this pan is good and hot, and it is. I'll test it out with a little water. So what we're going to do is get some onions going, and this is going to be my big pot of soup. Now, I started it out hot because I want to caramelize this a little bit, but note that I'm just keeping it from sticking. I'm going to get just a little more heat on that. Now you see you get a little bit of these brown bits in here. I want a little bit more of that here once this water kind of steams out. These will get translucent, and it happens actually pretty quick if you turn it up. And then we'll deglaze that with a little bit of tarragon vinegar. Just a touch more heat on that. You get the close-up view today, and hopefully we'll drop the camera in there, right? So again, no oil in there, just a little water, so they steamed up. Because oil is part of what happens in the oil is you get a little bit of ancillary heat from that instead of just the pan. Smells good. Love the smell of browning onions. And then if you want to get that little bit of brown bits off of there, that's just a fancy term that we say deglazing. A lot of chefs will do it with wine. It can be done with a little bit of vinegar. There's actually quite a bit of flavor in those. So you can just see real simply how I did that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and get the other stuff in there in just a minute. I'm getting hot here. Make sure you've got a good view. And it's still pretty hot. Yeah, never get the vinegar right up your nose, right? All right, we're going to move that big one off of there. Now, I think I've got this one hot enough. And I just keep a little pot of water right by my stove. Squirt bottle works really well. And you see that's nice and hot. We're going to get these leeks in here first because they take the longest. And so you're just doing kind of a nice little simmer without all of the crap in there, and it works perfectly well. I love leeks. It's one of my favorite vegetables. I've got I think we've done a couple of chowder recipes, like a corn chowder with potato and leeks. We did a pumpkin leek soup last year during pumpkin season. So just a lot of uses. It's like a mild onion. So you can just twist those out of there, get them apart a little bit. I could have done that with my fingers too, but anyway, it works. Just want to make sure I don't scratch my pan, right? So the thing about cooking without oil, you do have to watch it just a little bit more carefully. And if you are trying to do more than one thing, all you got to do is turn it down. I mean, you're just cooking the food, but we are avoiding the oil. Now, one of the reasons why we should avoid oil, besides of the artery dysfunction that happens when consuming oil, is that it's really high in omega-6s. And if you're trying to eat more plants and you're getting your omega-3s from plant sources, like flax and walnuts and chia seeds and things like that, you want to make sure that you're not inhibiting the conversion of that ALA, omega-3 fatty acids, to the EPA and DHA. You don't need to take a supplement, but if you've got too many omega-6s in your diet, it's going to make that conversion a little less efficient, a lot less efficient actually. So the other thing is that oils, the omega-6s tend to be inflammatory for most people. So if you have inflammation, you're dealing with arthritis, your best bet is to just avoid this stuff. It's not health food. And I'm showing you right now that there are other ways to cook food than without oil. I'm going to add the Swiss chard. Whoops, just about lost my camera. And we're going to steam this in here, and if I need to add another few drops of water, we'll do that. That's why that's sitting right there. And that will be a nice little side dish. So I usually don't make you sit here and watch the videos as I'm cooking and put you on pause as things cook, but I just wanted to show you how really easy this is to cook without any oil. Let me bring you back over to our pot here. You can see that those onions are browned. I could have kept going on that and made them really very caramelized. And yes, it sticks to the pan a little bit, but that stuff cleans right out, especially when you're not sticking it in there with oil. And when I add my liquids to that pot, it's going to basically take them off of there, especially if I turn it up a little bit, get that pan warm. As soon as I pour the liquids in there, all that stuff's going to come off the bottom. So this is similar to what I do for all my stir fries too. So when I do a stir fry, I might use a little bit of a tamari or a teriyaki sauce or something that I've made. Maybe a little bit of mandarin ginger at the end or something like that. A lot of different sauces that you can try, but I always do my vegetables this way. They're healthy. It's a healthy way to do it. You just steam up your vegetables. It's going to go on top of your brown rice. You can add a little sauce in there, and if you need to thicken it up at the end, you can add some arrowroot to thicken it. Cornstarch if you prefer, but I like arrowroot because it's sort of nondescript. Now this was about I don't know, a cup and a half, almost 2 cups of Swiss chard, and you can do this with spinach or whatever, but it's just leeks, mushrooms, greens. That's all there is to it. So now if you wanted to make sure all the liquids are out of this, you could do that. You could strain it if you wanted to. We could sit here and wait for it, wait for all of the stuff to steam out of there. It sort of depends on how you like your vegetables. And you'll find too that if you start cooking without oil, you're going to enjoy your food a lot more. You taste the flavors of the food, and then when you eat foods with oil, it's very sort of, oh, you feel that greasiness on your lips. You're going to end up not liking it when you're used to eating clean. So there you go, really simple saute, guys. I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to get started on the other one. And voila, that just plates beautifully. You could put a little rice here. You could put it with a baked potato. I'm going to put it with zucchini fritters a little bit later, after those get heated up. So let's get rolling on our next dish. So I think I want to do this over here. Make sure I don't burn the feet of this. Pull you over. Okay, here we go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is warm this pan up a little. I'm going to get my garlic in here. This particular recipe calls for 7 cloves of garlic. You guys know I love to use garlic and onion in everything. It's got cancer-fighting properties. It's really good for you. Your allium vegetables are great for both gut health and their oxidant capabilities and their cancer-fighting abilities. And we're going to get this lovely garlic all pressed in here. I need a bigger spoon. So one of the reasons why I use Swiss chard in the split pea soup recipe is that it'll make it super neon green, which is kind of fun, but you also get your greens in too. And again, the Swiss chard is super abundant. Now you can see how those brown little bits have come off the bottom. I'm going to take this guy, give these a stir. And at the end, we're going to blend all of this up in a blender, so it's just a nice pureed soup. So one thing I got to do real quick, you can watch that. Need to get some potato in here. I mentioned that we do 1 potato. It's about a cup of potato, half a cup of celery, half a cup of carrots. But that potato kind of makes it smooth. And you know, if you boil potato and it's cubed up, it's going to take about 20 minutes. You know how much I love these one pot recipes, but in this case I'm going to make an extra step, and we're going to blend it. So I know a bunch of my water cooked out when I was doing the peas, so I'm going to add a little bit more to this. And again, the best way to eat healthy, and I can't stress this more, if you're going to cook, make a big pot. Get your hands dirty, take a couple hours in the kitchen and make a big pot, and then you don't have to cook. And having healthy choices when you just don't feel like it is easy, because they're there. They're ready, they're in your fridge or freezer. We're going to put all of that Swiss chard in there. Now I already have, because I have onions in here, sometimes I'll do a little extra onion powder, but I'm not going to today. This has all got to cook, and then it'll get pureed. But I'm going to put the bay leaves in it. You can actually make the bay leaves, like blend them right in. I've been in the past, especially when using Swiss chard, I've had a hard time finding the bay leaves like this. So I just said heck with it, blended it right in. It was good. So depending on your palate, with a split pea soup, I like to go a little bit heavy on the pepper, but you already have all of these flavors going on, so you don't need to kill it. I've got a vegetable broth. I did not use low sodium vegetable broth today, but you can do that if you have hypertension or you're salt sensitive. And then we're just gonna let this rip for about 20 minutes or so. When it's done, we'll puree it in the blender, and that's all there is to it. So I'm going to pause you for a minute while I clean up my mess, and we'll come back and check this out in a little while. Okay guys, here we go. So you can see that this is kind of a nice smooth, so I checked the potatoes to make sure they were cooked all the way through, and the carrots as well. I actually found the bay leaves, so I took them out this time before putting them in. So what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to do the whole thing right now, but I'm just going to kind of show you how this turns out. I'm going to put a few scoops in the blender. I'm going to blend that up real quick. Check this out. We have about as thick as you can get without being a stew. A nice cup of a lentil Swiss chard soup. Really good, really filling, good for the gut. There you have it. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that today. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to comment if you have any questions or other tips about cooking with oil. I'm sure that our viewers would appreciate them. Tell us what you do when you're cooking without oil. I like to air fry. I like to use parchment paper in the oven. I tend to do lots of one-pot meals and boil everything together. You get all the flavors that way and make real hearty stews. And then I eat a lot of salads too, which doesn't have anything to do with oil, except that you want to make sure your dressing isn't full of crap. So we've talked about some of those dressings before. Again, if you got questions, comments, leave them down below. I will check on them on occasion and get back with you. We'll have one more video this month, so I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.